Liquor traders in the Eastern Cape have expressed disappointment over the new regulations that the Eastern Cape Liquor Board has now imposed as of the start of this month. Now, these regulations include an increase in renewal costs and the rezoning of businesses, just among others, as they believe this will then kill their businesses and that they were not even properly consulted. Mokebe Thulo is the CEO at aware.org and joins us now to weigh in on the Eastern Cape's Liquor Board bid to tackle underage drinking. So, Mokebe, thank you so much for your time. Welcome as always. So, you and I had a similar conversation, I think, during the festive season, of course, with a special focus on underage drinking and how we can actually combat this. And we spoke widely about the need to enforce reforms as well as policies and regulations, as we are seeing in this regard.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you so much for having us once again, and good afternoon to your viewers. We didn't indeed have a lengthy conversation about this, and at Aware, we actually welcome and support efforts to strengthen compliance and promote responsible liquor trading, but at the same time, we believe that, of course, it should be fair across the board.
Mm-hmm. And then, interestingly enough, it's now the same liquor traders that have taken offense at some of these latest developments, Mokebe. How do you then foresee them actually abiding by the latest regulations as well as complying there?
I mean, the reality of the situation is that when there are laws in place, until the laws are repudiated and changed, you need to follow the laws. You need to follow the correct procedure. So I would encourage liquor traders to do their best to follow the rules and uphold the law, because fundamentally it is in the interests of our children and our communities.
And the other issue, I suppose, is that Mokebe, some are still informal or even unregistered traders. And we know that this is with actually the bulk of the counterfeit alcohol as well as sales to minors are actually taking place. Now, how does the Liquor Board, in not just the Eastern Cape, but across the country, enforce this compliance that we're talking about, as well as the registration of these establishments before we are confronted with a situation that is similar to the recent spaza shop type of drive? And I mean, the fact that when government does actually make provision or moves to combat these ills, it's often the very communities that complain and the businesses that want to defy the law.
Yes, I dare say that the majority of traders actually do follow the law in our findings anecdotally, as well as around some of the research that we've done. But there is a group of bad seeds that give the industry a terrible name, because a lot of it is based on just, making the bottom line. The only way to combat it is to ensure that the law is followed, and in order for us to do that, we need the very same policy makers and the very same law enforcement organizations to take action where needed. We cannot, afford to give people leeway in places where they may not get leeway. We need to follow the rules, and where people are not following the law, we need to take the corrective action.
And I mean, because look, these regulations, the issues of rezoning are very important, Mokebe. I mean, we know that no taverns or liquor trading is actually permitted near school facilities. So complaining about losing business and not thinking about the long-term end goal is actually counterproductive, whereas these businesses are getting their licenses to operate and build in these zones in the first place. I mean, how did they obtain these operating licenses and areas to build on in the first place?
I mean, I certainly cannot speak on behalf of the Liquor Board or law enforcement, really, but I think that there are two issues here. Number one is that we make sure that from where we are moving forward, we take the corrective actions, meaning that we make the correct laws and that we enforce the laws that we create. Number two is that we look back at who is not complying with the laws as they are, and we take action against those people. A lot of people might have gotten away with a lot of things in the past, and some of those need to be addressed, and we understand that that is potentially a more long-term solution, but we need to work from where we are and move ourselves forward. And I agree, it is very counterproductive and it's very short-sighted to just consider an individual's business's bottom line and not consider the consequences of the actions of that business on the community, the micro community that they operate in, and then of course the macro community. It is insanely short-sighted and disappointing, to say the least.
I mean, let's talk about that, particularly in this district, Mokebe. We saw that very famous case where 21 young children, I suppose, actually lost their lives because of some establishments that do not actually follow some of the prescripts of course, liquor trading. I mean, the Eastern Cape, the community themselves should be up in arms in support of these new regulations and ensuring that actually those that are non-compliant are actually not operating in their areas.
Absolutely. I mean, the question is, what does up in arms mean? What does up in arms look like on a practical basis? And we've got a plethora of issues in our communities, and people invariably are attracted, or their actions are attracted to the actions that directly affect their lives first. And that's just the reality of the situation. So I believe that everybody needs to get involved. And that is why everybody needs to be community focused, community involved, and know what is happening in their communities. They need to know what laws are being passed. They need to know whether they are needed for commentary on a certain bill before it becomes an act. On amendments that need to be made. Everybody needs to be invested in their own communities. And yes, of course, they have to be up in arms. But even the people that are up in arms have to follow the law.
Absolutely, Mokebe. As always, thank you so much for your input. That is Mokebe Thulo there. She's the CEO of aware.org, weighing in on the Eastern Cape's Liquor Board imposing their very new strict new regulations aimed at combating underage drinking, just among others.